What's going on, everybody? Marc Guberti here, and in this video, we're going to talk about how to use podcasting to boost your book sales. So we're going to talk about being on other people's podcasts. We're also going to talk about starting your own podcast because both of these mediums are great ways to boost your book sales. And if you are looking for a ton of ways to boost book sales, make sure you subscribe because that's what we talk about on the channel very often. And you will get more videos like this one if you do choose to hit the subscribe button. So when it comes to podcasting and using it to sell more books, it's great if you already have a podcast or leaning in the direction of starting your own podcast, because starting your own podcast and being the host, it just makes it easier to get on other people's shows. You can interview other people who host podcasts, and then you could do an interview exchange where you have them on your show and then they bring you on their show. So if you are going to really embrace the medium of podcasting, it's really great if you do have your own show or you do think in that way. So starting with your own podcast, there are two ways you could really approach the episodes. You do solo content and you do interview content. And it's good to do a mix of both. In the solo episodes, you could really highlight your expertise in the topic. You can sell your book both in the solo episodes and in the interview episodes, but it's easier to do those types of plugs in a solo episode. And with the solo episode, you have more control over the format and which topics you choose, while the interview format is based on what the guest topics are, and then you frame a conversation around that. But with both episodes, you have the ability to turn that content into your book. So solo episodes, I will literally look at future books I want to write. I'll say, what are the book topics? What are the episodes that match up with those book topics? And then transcribe the episode, edit the transcription, and then turn that into a segment of the book. So you could actually use your podcast to write your own book, in addition to selling the book that either you go back into the episode and you lead people to that book later on, or you create content for your future book while promoting a book that has already been published. So there's a lot of different ways you can approach it. The interviewing is a great style also because you get other people, the guests, to promote the episodes when they come out. So I do 5 interview-based episodes on breakthrough success each week. That's not including the other 2 podcasts. So that means there's going to be 5 people who promote the episode each week. And I do look for guests who they're just more likely to promote the episode. So there are some people who, like your dream guest of like someone you'd really love to have on your show, the dream guests, they get a lot of interview requests, so they're just less likely to promote. I focus more on people who they can provide great value and they're more likely to promote the episode. And with these interviews, where it helps with selling the book is you do grow your audience, but this can also be very useful collaborations. So a lot of people who I interview on Breakthrough Success, I've had them on virtual summits. They've actually, some of them promoted my book during book launch day. Some of the guests have become part of the book launch team for one of my books, like Content Marketing Secrets. That was one of the books where I definitely put in the most effort to building up a book launch team. And a whole bunch of those people were people who came on Breakthrough Success as guests or one of my virtual summits. So the true value in podcasting is that ability to build relationships while providing your audience with valuable content. So you're building the relationships, which lead to collaborations, while building trust with your audience because you're providing them with all this great content. And then that's going to lead to book sales later on. And part of your interviewing strategy, which is who you bring on to the show, what type of end results you want. Granted, not each interview has these end results happen. You shouldn't view it solely for what happens at the end of the interview, but you can bring on the podcast host, as we mentioned before. So if you want to do a hard push for an upcoming book, you bring on more guests on your show who then invite you to be on their shows, and all these interviews can then come out within a 3 to 4 week time frame if you give people enough notice. So if you have a book that's coming out 3 months in advance, now be a really great time to jump on those interviews and talk about your book, and then say it drops on this date. And you could also have pre-order in case a host decides to publish the episode a little earlier, which is no problem as long as you are properly set up for it. So having other people on your shows is a great way to be on additional podcasts. And each of those episodes is just additional exposure for your book. And it's not just when the episode's published, but it's months after, years after. There are episodes that I've published years ago on Breakthrough Success that still get downloads to this day. That's the power of podcasting. Any content format in general, like YouTube, blogging, like stuff I put up years ago still gets traction. And that's going to be the same thing that happens as you appear on other people's shows and publish your episodes as well. And that is just a matter of doing what you're supposed to do with any book, which is keep promoting. All the books that are behind me in this video, I still promote these books and the others that I've written. I'm still bringing people to my Amazon author page. And the reason is that the promotion never stops for successful books. A lot of people, they just write the book, they go hard during the book launch, and then that's it. But if you want sustainable income from your books, you have to keep on promoting them. You have to keep on running those ads. You have to keep on building up your platform and then promoting the books as it makes sense. And as you do write more books, it definitely becomes harder to promote all of them, which is why you look at your data, you see who your winners are, and you double down on those. And you could always be creating ads, which I talked about in another video, to sell additional copies of your book. Now, we're just going to share just a few quick tips of podcasts. We've definitely covered the overall, like the macro. So we're just going to jump into some micro. The first big tip that's going to help you sell more books and also grow on any platform with a podcast is to encourage people to share the book on Instagram, in their Instagram stories, and tag you and say, in return for doing that, I will give you a shout out. So with that in mind, one of the things I've recently been doing is I say, if you take a screenshot of this video at any point, you tag me on Instagram, I will shout you out in a future video and put your Instagram story into my Instagram story. So I do actively share people who tag me on Instagram and they are enjoying, whether it's a video, a podcast, or a book. I'm always engaging with that type of content and giving you the spotlight to my audience. And that is a great strategy you can utilize for your podcast. You can mention at the beginning of your show. So you say, oh, I just came out with this book. If you get a copy, you take a picture of it and you post it on social media and you tag me, I will reshare that with my audience and shout you out in the future podcast episode. So that is a really great strategy for any podcaster looking to boost sales or just drive attention to anything that they're doing. And when it comes to selling books, one of the best things you could do is just write more books. I know there's this signature book model where you write a book, it becomes a bestseller, and that's the one book that's your whole name, your whole brand. And that definitely works for some people, depending on what you want to do. Like if you just want to get on a lot of speaking stages, it definitely works. But if you want to build up income from your books, if you want to increase the number of book sales, well, it definitely helps if you have a second book. Because then people who liked your first book, they may buy your second book. And I've had people who they have bought 10 of my books or even more than that because they liked what they saw in my free content. They liked what they saw in the book they picked up, and they kept liking the content they saw in all of my books. And it is one of those things that builds up over time. The more books you write, the more revenue streams you create for yourself. So that's why it's good to just have a habit, like write 500 words a day or 1,000 words a day, because then it gets easier to produce more books, which gives you more opportunities to share different books on one of your podcast episodes. And when people do go from your podcast to your author page on Amazon, they have more options to choose from. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you subscribe and smash the like button. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, dream big, achieve greatness, and unlock your potential today.